All right, everybody. I just had this thought, and I just wanted to share it and get it out there, just right while I have it, while it's fresh. And I think I'm going to start doing this kind of thing more often, and just not. I think I've lived a lot of my life holding back thoughts, or just like, yeah, in maybe out of fear, maybe out of being careful. Um, I mean, probably for a variety of reasons, maybe some good reasons. But with that said, I guess as I get older, I'm going to do less of that. And so let's get to the thought. The thought was essentially this: we, in general, maybe I could start it by talking about specialization. But actually, I want to approach it in a slightly different way. I think things in general in life have become psychologically more difficult, and I think a huge part of the reason of that is modern technology. I mean, I think some things that I'll say are maybe already well spoken about and understood, but perhaps not accepted. But essentially, we could talk about it as simply as the phone in your pocket, whether it's connected to Facebook Messenger or iMessage or just text messages or calls or whatever it is. That there's not, unless you specifically make it so, there's not really a time where you're off duty, so to speak, or you're unreachable. I mean, and it wasn't that long ago that didn't used to be the case, or that used to not be the case. But I think also wrapped up in that is that, me as a musician, or so and so as somebody that works at Chick-fil-A, or somebody that works at the gym, or whatever it is, different jobs and responsibilities that we hold as human beings in communities and in a society, that there are sort of responsibilities of information that today are maybe expected or pressured on you to some extent, that it isn't really yours to hold. That many positions, many functions that we can be within a community, ways that we can be productive members of a community, productive parts of a community, don't need us to know about politics. It doesn't need us to know about the current, scandal, or the current danger to the world. I mean, I think, on the one hand, if nukes were going to be launched tomorrow, we'd all want to know. Part of what makes all this difficult is it's like, in order to have a sense of sanity, we have things that exist in the world now that are insane, just in a realistic way. The idea that there are explosive devices that could singularly transform the face of the earth and wipe out entire populations is insane. I mean, that in and of itself is insane. So when then you're grappling with the issue, you're grappling with what is insane, and to a lot of people is just almost incomprehensible, or just, how do you even grapple with that? It's like, how do you prepare for something like that? Probably you can't, Maybe you can try to locate yourself to a destination where a nuke is unlikely to drop, but it seems nearly impossible to locate yourself in a place where that wouldn't have some kind of long-term, life-threatening impact, or because it would impact the structural integrity of the world, of economies and relationships and shipping, and so many areas that maybe aren't targets are dependent on modern society and the systems that we have set up. So it's hard to even conceptualize how things would transform. And that's kind of, I guess, the point that I want to make is we can't. It's impossible. And so maybe in the same way that this is a horrible part about being alive today, um, and something that is like of the utmost significance to all of us as individuals, it maybe is also the fact that there's no way to conceptualize it or understand the ramifications or how you should prepare, um, to some degree of certainty or confidence, I would say. Maybe there's some people that would dispute me on that point, but then I would say, by that same token, maybe it is also a sort of permission or a reason for us to just let it go and realize it's out of our control. We can't control it, so why worry about it? If it happens, then it happens. And I think a huge part of the problem is, I was thinking that, all these people that I see speak on politics publicly, on social media platforms, I have this idea. It seems like nothing ever really gets better, in fact, it seems like we're spiraling in the other direction. That it just creates reactions and reactions and reactions. And as much as some people try to tie it to sense, I think there's something wrapped up in the dynamic of speaking into a microphone and speaking into a camera that renders genuine expression or truthful, noble efforts. It renders them somewhat powerless or weakened or unbelievable, or that those kind of expressions and it's not a platform where truth and understanding spread, that this only really happens in the real world through actual interaction. And so all the people that attempt to do this online, it doesn't really work. And which is kind of funny because I'm doing this online. And so maybe this is a complete waste of time. All of this thought and effort that I go into putting this stuff out there is a waste. What kind of impact does this really have? Because you don't know me and you can't genuinely feel this interaction. You can believe that I'm a real person. You can believe that what I'm saying is true, but you don't feel who I am, and you don't. There are details that are lost in the transmission of this electronic information. It's not reality. It's not the same thing, and it's very hard to conceptualize or perhaps put words to why this is significant and what the losses are and why they're essential, because we don't have words for it, because we don't understand on the depths of those levels. There's a theory, but I think one of the things that perhaps could help us is to not be so caught up in all this stuff that we can't control, that has no impact on what we can actually do. And so on a day-to-day basis, what kind of positive impact can you have in your world? If knowing that a nuke could drop tomorrow has no bearing on that, then why even concern yourself with it? If knowing that Trump said something stupid again, and it's insulting, or it's whatever your interpretation of it is, if that doesn't have any bearing on what you have to do today and what positive difference you can make today, then why concern yourself with it at all? I think what happens is, as we try to engage with these issues, it's almost like a bacteria that we expose ourselves to, and it's not that we can exactly work with those things. It's just that we become infected by it. It's like something along those lines. And so I think we're probably far better off. One of the things that our society, or perhaps societies around the world, have done to great success, and that could even be debated as to whether or not it's ultimately a good thing, but that's specialization, where I started out. When we focus on one vocation or one skill, like a dissertation, we become unbelievably good at it. And if so many of us as individuals do that, we're going to excel in so many different capacities. And then if we can work together, we're all way better off. But one of the problems that lies in that is that when you specialize, you can become somewhat ignorant, in many other capacities, and maybe it renders you to be somewhat ineffective in relationships and socially, and that there are important things that we need to understand collectively. So I suppose that goes a little bit against what I'm saying, but also perhaps it just ties into how well we're organized and run, and maybe it's certain individuals' responsibility to actually synthesize the specialization. If that all makes sense, I think we're weakening ourselves by not allowing ourselves to specialize, by becoming consumed with so much content and so much polarization and so much current event, or all this stuff that is put to you as, essential information, things that you're a good or a bad person if you don't participate, if you're not aware. You need to be aware so you can vote properly. And of course, as we know, at least within the United States, the voting system is only down to 2 candidates generally. And how much control do we have as individuals about who those people are? How much control do we have as large communities, as cities, as states, in who those people are? It doesn't even seem like a lot, because we continually end up with candidates that nobody really likes. And so then it's like, what's even the point of consuming yourself to this extent when the system is flawed and controlled and all this stuff? So I think probably we're far better off investing all of that energy and time and attention in systems that just want to maintain power and aren't honest and aren't serving us, aren't serving you. We're being fools to continue to invest all of our energy. So I think probably it is a waste of time to vote. It probably is a waste of time on some level to some degree. And I think we're probably well past that tipping point where it ain't worth it anymore. And what is worth it is to invest in the people around you, invest in your neighbors, invest in your local businesses, invest in the people that you can actually know on a personal level, and grow from the ground up so we can have strong communities that can actually build something, and that I think that's the only way, because otherwise we're just constantly feeding back into this system that's sort of trying to keep control and has us all roped in. So in other words, again, if I'll finish by saying, if we tie it back into specialization, that I would be far better off as a musician just focusing on what I'm doing locally as a musician and how I can connect with people musically and philosophically and spiritually in the ways that I want to as a musician, that I feel driven to, or that I feel inspired to, or called to. That should be the breadth of my effort, and I don't need to consume myself with what happened in Minnesota, or the fraud or lack thereof in some other place, and whether it's just or whether it's not. All this stuff, I don't need to consume myself with any of that stuff, because what relevance does that have to my life or the person that I end up debating it with? Isn't the thing that's more important is just my relationship with that person, not something that has no connection fundamentally to our lives, our day-to-day lives, and even our community that we're in? And I think if we focus our energy correctly, we're going to I'll just say I think we have so much energy and attention and time that is derouted into stuff that does not serve us at all.